Welcome back to the Morrissey and Wine podcast. My name is George.
I'm Chris.
And this is episode 13 now. So we do this every month.
Yep, so this is year 2.
We're into year 2. Yeah, quarter 1 of year 2. If you've been with us from the start, you know what this is all about. So we have some wine and we will tell you about the wine in just a second. If you're wondering what that sex toy looking thing on the top of the bottle is, we'll explain. We always have an interview. This time, who have we got, Chris?
This time it's Andrew Paresi.
Andrew Paresi. So a lot of you diehard fans, as we'd probably consider ourselves diehard fans, will know who Andrew Paresi is. But if you don't, he was a drummer for Morrissey solo between the years of 1987 and 91. So that's a really key era,
Definitely, yeah.
So I mean, you may have seen our interview with Stephen Street. That those years overlap. Stephen Street and Andrew Paresi worked closely together.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be fascinating because I feel like Morrissey has changed over the years. He's gone from being very fey and skinny to sort of quite a masculine kind of tank of a guy in some ways.
Tough.
Yeah, hench as we used to say at school. So he's changed physically, but I feel like the core identity of Morrissey was kind of set in those early solo years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we can hear a lot about that.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And again, if you've been watching from the start or listening, you'll know that Nanny Val joins us every month.
Yep.
So that's my grandma, Nanny Val. She was, when we started this process, a complete what do you call it, like a newbie to the music.
Yeah, and now she's a massive Morrissey fan.
Now she's a fan. Yeah, she loves it. We're always talking about Morrissey now, even when we're not doing the podcast. Nan's texted me about songs and stuff. So she has received suggestions from our Patreon subscribers about songs that they want her to react to. So,
but we don't know which song yet, do we?
No.
Okay.
So she's going to let us know. We have also got the trivia quiz.
Yep.
And you're quizzing me this time?
Yeah. See how well you do.
Yeah. So that's 10 questions from trivia over Morrissey's 40-year career.
Yep.
If you want to take part in that, you can do. Just pause it after we ask the question and let us know how you get on. Especially
we like to know how people get on. Often they do better than us.
Yeah.
And also the questions now are getting a little bit tougher because we've been doing it for a while. So we've had 100 questions so far. So now this is going into the next, 120.
Yeah.
Then we are going to analyse the lyrics of a song. This time it's what kind of people live in these houses. So from the recent album.
I'm Not a Dog on a Chain. Yeah. We picked that one because it's got a lot of lyrics in it and it's got a kind of clear story, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Lots of sort of vignettes of different types of people. So we'll dig into that. Now we'll just tell you about the wine that we're drinking. I think we do have some wine fans among our listeners. Some people like to pour a glass and listen.
Yeah. I want to get more into the wine. Do you think we have people who just listen for the wine bits?
That would be a very sort of roundabout way to get wine information, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if you're that obsessed with wine that you do this.
Yeah.
You listen to this. Okay.
So we've poured it. So I'm drinking a white, and this is a Chardonnay. So we went to Majestic Wines actually, which is a sort of a nice wine retailer in the UK, and I asked for a good Chardonnay. This was quite pricey. It was £18.99. I did think it was cheaper, but I was looking at the case price, not the bottle price. This is a Josh Sellers Chardonnay, and the tasting notes say it's well-balanced, delicious, and carefully sourced, perfect for sharing with friends and family. It's a harmonious balance of citrus, honey, juicy peach, and oak flavors.
Nice.
And
how is it?
oaky. And Chris, yours is a red.
Yeah, it's red. So it's the Olivier Dubois.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, it's a Pinot Noir. This is so think red currant and cherry with a sweetly spiced edge. It's and it's French, obviously.
Yeah. And how much was that?
A lot cheaper than yours, actually. Can you got your receipt over there?
Oh yeah, it was £11.24. Quite an exact price, isn't it? So what do you think of the wine?
Yeah, it's nice. It's very nice. The it's nice,
fruity, cherry.
It is quite sweet, actually. Yeah. Which I like. I like sweet things.
Yeah, you asked in the shop. Asked this wine expert. if we want a sweet red wine, what would be the best one to get? And that's like, no one wants a sweet red wine.
That's what he said, basically. Yeah.
Basically, you fucked.
He said you can't get it because no one wants it.
Thank you to Mark at Majestic Wines for lending us these wine glasses because I forgot to bring some to the studio.
Yes.
And these are apparently like tasting glasses because they're very narrow, so that it helps you to taste better.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally, we better mention the sex toy that you mentioned at the start.
Oh, yeah. So what is this?
It is. My mum brought it.
Bought it.
Bought. So it's an. Thank you. Back to school for Chris. It's a wine aerator,
Yeah.
and it says it air flows through wine, creating an enhanced, flavorful bouquet.
This is bouquet.
Yeah. I know you know Mum watches this, but you think it's quite tacky, don't you?
I think it looks a bit tacky, but if it makes the wine taste better, who am I to judge?
Exactly. Who are you to judge?
So we'll go into the quiz straight away. So get your pen and paper ready, and I'll say cheers to you, Chris.
Cheers.
Cheers, and cheers to you at home.
So now it's time for the quiz.
The quiz.
10 questions for George.
Yes. Did you do these in like 5 minutes before we started the show? Or did you put a little bit of work into them?
I put work into them as in I messaged a few people saying, can you send me some questions and some answers, rather than me having to do the work. But like I said, this is the 120th first question now.
Yes.
So it's quite a lot of questions.
Yeah. Do you need to do a shout out to anyone to say thank you for the quiz questions?
No, I think they know.
Okay.
They know, yeah. It's too many to mention.
Well, I've got a special treat for you and for the listeners at home. I'm not going to sing to the quiz theme music this time.
I told you, just because people have said horrible things about how you sing doesn't mean you should stop doing it.
But people obviously think that like that's me singing, like thinking that I can sing well. And the whole point is that I'm doing it badly, but I don't think that was coming across. I think people thought that was genuinely me like thinking I was good at singing. Yeah.
That's quite sad, isn't it?
So let's just make some funny faces while it's on.
The theme. Okay. I won't partake, but you can. Okay.
No, I want you to do funny faces as well.
Okay. You're going to press the button.
Yeah, go on then. 3, 2, 1.
That's horrible.
Preview.
I prefer the singing.
Well, I really want to sing.
Sing, just do it.
This is the quiz. I'm gonna win this quiz. I do really well at the quiz. Much better than Chris. Just sort of rose up in me. I couldn't resist.
Yeah. Well, you got some more hate for that, but it's your own fault.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question is, number 1.
Yes.
Which 3 albums did Andrew Paresi feature on?
Oh, okay. Is this including compilations?
It is. So I think you know.
Yes. Well, Bona Drag was one of them.
Okay.
Now, obviously, they're most likely going to be either side of that. And I know Andrew Paresi worked with Morrissey between the years of 87 and 91. So I'm going to suggest Kill Uncle, Viva Hate, and of course, Bona Drag. Yay.
Well done. That's 1 to you.
Thank you.
Well done. Question number 2. What single is the last time any former member of the Smiths collaborated with Morrissey?
Oh, okay. So in the very early days of Morrissey's solo, he performed with Andy Rourke and Mike Joyce. I know that they played on Playboys, and that was a single. I'm just trying to think if there were any after that. I'm going to take a punt and say the last of the famous international Playboys.
Oh, there's Ells Bells.
Sounds quite sort of religious, that.
Yeah, Ells Bells, yeah.
Bells. Sorry, what was the answer then?
The answer was Piccadilly Polare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You kind of forget that was a single because it didn't really have a big impact, did it? Like, when you think of to me, Piccadilly Polare is almost like a B-side.
Really?
Yeah.
I like that one.
I do as well. Okay.
Okay, so question number 3. Jesse, Alan, or Boz? Fuck, marry, kill. No. No, I'm joking. That's not really the question. The question is, it does start the same though. I will ask that one afterwards. Jesse, Alan, Boz, who has the most writing credits on a Morrissey record? Morrissey Records.
Like who's totted up the
Yes,
most?
yes, totted up. Yeah, yeah.
Well, whilst Boz was Morrissey's musical director for a long time, it didn't necessarily reflect in how many songwriting credits he had. That's my understanding.
Okay.
So I'm not going to put him at the top. The other two choices were Jesse, Tobias,
And Alan.
and Alan White.
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
they're pretty toe to toe, I think. So it's going to have to be a bit of an educated guess for me. But I think Jesse has probably had more years with Morrissey than Alan overall. So I'm going to say Jesse, Tobias.
Well, sorry. Your thoughts were doing quite well at the start. I mean, I've got it down here as Alan 77.
77?
Yeah.
Wow, 77
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
think so.
Okay, never
Okay,
mind.
well, okay. Question number 4. Olivia Newton-John had an obituary on Central. True or false?
I didn't even know she was dead. She's the lady from Greece, isn't she?
Yeah, and she's done other things, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder what was mentioned in the obituary. Was it maybe Greece? Not Morris's obituary. I mean the one in the paper. What was the question?
Olivia Newton-John had an obituary on Morrissey Central.
Oh,
True or false?
you know what? That is the kind of thing that Morrissey would do, even though there's no link, between the two. And I have to get into the mind of the quizmaster, into his mind palace, and think, why would he ask the question if it wasn't true? I don't remember seeing it, so I'm going to say false.
False.
That's my final answer. No obituary. Oh,
it was true. I mean, to be fair, you should say yes because nearly everyone's on there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, question number 5.
Yeah. 1 out of 5 so far.
Is that right?
I've only got one right. Yeah.
Okay. Who sings the backing vocals on Piccadilly Polare? So another Piccadilly question.
Can you stop banging your leg?
Sorry.
I feel like we're in an earthquake. Piccadilly Polare.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Suggs from Madness was around at this time, and he did some vocal sort of kind of sound effect type things on, I think it was Get Off the Stage, which I think was a B-side to Piccadilly Polare, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to say Suggs from Madness. Yeah.
Well done. Yep. So 2 so far. How are you doing at home? Halfway through?
Yeah.
That's 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So what film is the recording of Take Me Back to Dear Old Blighty taken from?
What film?
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
It features at the beginning of The Queen is Dead.
The Queen is Dead, yeah.
yeah.
The sort of pub song.
Yeah.
I want to say The L-Shaped Room.
Well done. I think that was a hard one. But
I
well
know.
done. Yeah.
That's very impressive of me, wasn't it?
I wouldn't like to say. Okay, another song. This one came in from a listener, someone who I asked.
A human being.
A human.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a bot.
Okay.
Well, we could get them done by that now, couldn't
No,
we?
this is an AI-free
Okay,
zone.
AI-free. Question number 7. What song contains the lyric, as long as there remains steel in my veins, as long as there remains steel in my veins.
As long as there remains steel in my veins.
Yeah.
It's from the World Peace era. I think it's Julie and the Weeds. Yes.
Well done.
Do you ever think, is there any chance, like, does Morrissey know who Julie Hamill is and he wrote a song about Julie and the Weeds and it's like a little nod? Because sometimes he does.
Does Julie have an allotment? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always wondered who the Julie was. I just in my head. But then the thing is, when you're interpreting songs, you always link them to things that you know, don't you? You're not thinking, what do they know?
I hope so, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Question number 8.
So I've got 3 out of 8 so far.
Yeah, 3 out of 7. So
Okay.
we're on 8. What year was the Star and Garter built?
Oh, wow.
So do you want to explain what the Star and Garter is?
Yeah. If you don't know, the Star and Garter is the venue in Fairfield Street, Manchester, where the monthly Smith's Morrissey Disco is held. And it has been held there for decades. When was it built? Well, it would probably be a Victorian building. And I think the Victorian times were like the 1800s, weren't they? Right? Something like that. Mid 1800s to Early 19, I don't know. Sorry, I'm not very good at history, but
It's close enough for Victorian.
Yeah, I'm going to guess 1847. What a surprise.
Yeah, I suppose it was quite a hard question. It's quite niche. It was originally built in 1803. So you sort of the 18 bit was there. Not quite Victorian, a bit before her time.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But it was moved. It was originally somewhere else and they moved it to make way for the station. So it is, the building, they've moved it brick by brick.
And that's ironic, isn't it? Because in recent years, they were being forced to move again for the station to expand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder where they're going to put it next.
Yeah. In my house, in my garden.
They bring it shorter and I'd save on Uber fares.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 9. I think this is an easy one for you.
Okay.
What was the last line in Kenneth Williams' diary?
Oh, I know this because it's written on Chris's fridge in
blood.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Magnetic letters. His last words in his diary were, "Oh bloody hell, what's the point?" No. Oh, what's the bloody point?
Well done. Yeah. Oh, what's the bloody point? And then killed himself.
Yeah. How sad.
That's quite sad. One of my heroes.
Yeah.
So that's good. So we're on. You think you're at four now? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can meet us halfway.
Okay.
Now, George, meet us halfway.
Yeah.
Okay. What's my favourite Smith song?
What kind of question is that? Do you think Clive Murray would ask that on Mastermind?
Probably.
What's my favourite vegetable? God. Well, this is niche because who at home is going to know the answer to this question?
Yeah, that's fair enough. To be fair.
But okay. Did you say Smiths?
Yeah.
I think it's probably These Things Take Time.
See, you know a little bit about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
So I got 5 out of 5.
5 out of 10.
Sorry, 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, well, that's not too bad.
That's not too bad.
If you are a Patreon member, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, then text us in the WhatsApp chat and let us know how you did on the quiz this time. So you'll probably beat 5, but we'll see. Sometimes people say, oh, they were really hard this month, and I find them easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find them really hard, and other people say they're super easy. So,
and if anyone guessed number 10, that'd be interesting. Maybe that's my soulmate.
Yeah. Now I will just mention that now, actually. So the Patreon, if you want to join the Patreon, it's £4.50 a month or $5 if you're in the US. You get sort of 5 benefits if you join. To be honest, the big part of it is just supporting what we do and paying the costs and the wine and the train tickets and stuff. We really appreciate that help, but you do get some benefits. So every month we do Chris and George off mic, 30-minute bonus episode where we just talk about stuff a bit more honestly, a bit more in detail, just kind of like our real thoughts on certain Morrissey topics, safe in the knowledge that it's just sort of Patreon subscribers listening and not Morrissey. There's the full unedited interviews with the guests. So we do like a 20-minute version of the interview in the podcast.
Yeah.
But if you subscribe to the Patreon, you get like the full 45 minute interview. So I think at the moment on there, we've got like the Stephen Street one, the Alan White one, a couple of others. So they sort of build up over time as a bit of an archive, and you can get those. 2 secs. Of course we have the members only WhatsApp chat. So there's about around 100 people in that at the moment. We don't have 100 Patreon subscribers. The chat was open for a while, but it's now closed. If you want to join that, become a Patreon member, and there's some really nice people in there. And like any question you have about Morrissey or Smiths, someone will know in that chat.
It's really useful, actually. Yeah.
We've got another benefit of the Patreon is regular delivery of badges. So Chris, I've just seen the designs on Chris's laptop. Chris has got a badge maker.
Yeah.
How are the badges going, Chris?
Someone said to me the other day, why have you got a badge maker? And I just said, well, obviously because I'm very sad. But yeah, I found it in the attic yesterday, so I've dusted it off.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to make them.
Yeah. And so we're going to send those out. So whether we've got people in Australia, the US, UK, wherever you are, if you're a Patreon member, you'll be getting those badges maybe once a year, once every 6 months, something like that. The next lot is going out in early February.
Very soon, yeah.
So if you're keen on that, join Patreon quickly and send us your address.
I've blocked out a week to get badging it.
Badge it. And just finally, Patreon, you can choose the next song that Nanny Val reacts to. As we said earlier, Nan is going to she has gone through the suggestions of Patreon subscribers. She's picked the ones she thinks she'll have the most to talk about. And as I say, they're from Patreon subscribers. We don't suggest those to Nan.
No.
So, talking of Nanny Val, should we have a chat with her?
Yeah, let's do it. She picked a dress to wear. Is she all ready to wear?
Yes. And I think she's doing pretty well, actually, isn't she?
Very well, yeah.
And if our suspicions are correct, by the time this goes out, Morrissey might have announced some UK dates.
Yes.
And if so, Nanny Val is going to be at one of those. And maybe we'll bump into you.
Well, hopefully it'll be the Beckettwell Arena in Derby.
Yeah.
And that will be easy for us all to get to.
That would be ideal. So let's have a chat with Nanny Val and see which song she's picked this time. Nanny Val, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hello, darling.
Thank you for coming into the studio again. This time you have chosen a song based on the Patreon subscribers' suggestions.
Yes.
Which song did you choose this time?
I chose This Charming Man.
Yeah.
And it was suggested by Salvador.
Salvador, yeah, who's often in the WhatsApp chat.
Yes.
If you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll be in that chat. Okay, so what was it about? So you saw all of the suggestions and you listened to various songs to see which one you might be able to talk about. What was it about this song that made you think I might have something to say?
I listened to quite a lot this time. I think there were over 20.
Mm.
So I latched onto this one because I'd already heard it via you. You were once referred to as the Charming Man.
Really?
The long and distant past.
And so I recognised the title and sort of thought I'd delve a bit further and see what else I could find out about it.
Mm.
And I liked it. It was nice. I didn't like some of the earlier Smiths ones because of he hadn't really grown into his voice. But this was good.
Because we were chatting just before we started recording and you were saying that you prefer the sort of modern Morrissey, sort of crooner, smooth, mellow
Suave,
voice.
Yeah, I do very much, yeah.
Because he has very much transformed, from the early days to what he is now. There's a big difference, isn't there?
Yeah. Grown into his voice and his body. He's just he seems contented and it's reflected in his voice, I think.
Yes. Okay, so shall we start? Let's talk about This Charming Man. So I think every Smiths fan has their idea of what this song means and what the story is. So I'm really interested to hear what is your impression of what's the narrative? What are the characters doing in this song? What was your impression?
I hope I don't upset anyone.
Oh, everyone's got a different idea.
Okay. It starts off with a punctured bicycle on a hillside, a desolate hillside.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's Morris's own biography, it's his own life story. Because of later bits that I've read into it, I think it could have even been in Ireland. And he broke down on the top of this hillside and this charming car came up with a charming man inside and offered him a lift home, obviously. And when he first gets into the car, there's bits in there that people say they don't understand because of this, is it perplexity or complexity? Complexity of being pampered and all this sort of thing. And looking more into it and thinking about him and what I know of him now, I think it was the fact he says about the smooth leather seats, which appealed to him tactilely. He thought it was lovely, but he didn't. The concept was in conflict because of his feelings of animal cruelty. He didn't like leather, does he?
Yes.
Things. So I think that was part of it.
Yeah, because often now he says, in a recent version, I think he said the pleather on the passenger seat.
Right.
So,
Oh, does he?
or at least, I've heard that somewhere.
He was obviously conscious of that fact. And so that's what I thought. He obviously, I would imagine there's sort of mutual attraction between this charming man and Morrissey.
Yes.
Because he says, where's the bit he says?
How could someone...
Will nature make a man of me yet? I think it's underlying sort of, someone's tempting him and he's feeling tempted by that attraction to someone.
And on the looks as well around, it's gruesome that someone so handsome should care.
Yes,
so that would saying someone's handsome, you'd think there's some attraction.
Well, I would, again, obviously I have to sort of try and think of a story about what I feel he's saying. And I felt that he was asked by this guy driving him home, would you like to come out tonight? And his response is, I haven't got a stitch to wear. And the guy says, "Oh, someone as handsome as you, that's gruesome. Why would you care? Like you're handsome enough without fancy clothes or whatever." So that's that bit. And at the very end, he said, "Na na 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 na." So I think he declined the invitation, but I'm not sure.
You think the na is like sort of say no? At the end?
Yeah, like, no. I'd like to, but I'm not going to go there. I think.
Why not? Because he's not brave enough to take that leap and get with the handsome
Maybe it's
man.
too early in his life because he was like slow developer, I think, in that area. I assuming. But people are very confused apparently by this a jumped up pantry boy who never knew his place. And he said, "Return the ring." There's two versions of that. In one, Morrissey himself apparently said, I think I may have got that wrong, that it was from the film with with Laurence Olivier,
right,
and Michael Caine. Is in that there's in The Sleuth in 1972.
Yeah,
there's those lines.
Yeah,
but also there's another interpretation I read. And it said it's actually from a much earlier, a 1945 novel by Henry Green called Loving. And those exact lines are there. And it's about an Irish country manor house. And it's about the difference between the upstairs and the downstairs, their lives. And there is a pantry boy that gets accused of stealing the ring. He didn't actually, but that's part of this pantry boy and returning the ring and all this sort of thing. And Morrissey is very well read.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was Irish, I imagine would have appealed to him and he would have read it. So he probably did. That was probably a bit of plagiarism, a bit of, taking those lines from that, something that impressed him.
He often does. A lot of things are based on old films or old books or, in Morrissey.
Even
Smith's.
Sorry, even I haven't got a stitch to wear. That was from Rita Tushin. 1 minute.
Check your notes.
Yeah, sorry about this, guys. I'm a bit dumb on these things. What was it from? No.
Well, it has been said about this charming man that it's a kind of mishmash of poetic ideas and lyrics. So there's the story of the guy on the hillside, his bicycle's broken down, someone offers him a lift. But then there's this stuff about the jumped up pantry boy and there's various other bits and bobs. So it's not a complete narrative. It's not from A to B. You can see where the line goes.
No.
There's things going off all over the place, isn't there?
Yeah. I think that's why I tried in my mind to, melt the two together. And I think in my mind, that's why I thought it was Ireland. And probably one of the characters in the book reminded him of this guy because he says about him knowing everything, didn't he, or something. This, he knows so much about these things. He knows so much about these things. Like as if it had reminded him of a character, I felt.
And so we've got this song that comes out in the 80s. This is before the Pet Shop Boys. It's before gay bands, this hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And Morrissey is quite obviously singing this song about being picked up by an older man and being charmed into his car.
Yeah.
So how does that strike you, Nan? Like, is that... obviously, these days it's not shocking, but to think back of that coming out in the 80s, do you think if you'd heard it at the time, you would have thought, wow, that's quite different?
Of course, yeah. And it probably was quite a bewildering experience for him if he was, a young guy that hadn't really developed his sexuality. And this guy obviously come on to him and thought he was, a really attractive guy and trying to talk him into coming out later and all this sort of thing. I don't know. I think that's what probably inspired the song, but as usual, a complete guess.
Yeah, and this song has, one of the lines that I like the most is sort of why pamper life's complexities when the leather pleather runs smooth on the passenger seat. Yeah. But apart from that, why do you this song is often the Smith song, probably even more so than There Is a Light, really.
Yeah, or How Soon Is Now.
In the sort of, if there's anything on the news about the Smiths, they use this one. And also it's a great song as well. Sometimes you think songs are overplayed, but this one's always, why do you think that is? Why do you think this song is almost like the Smiths, the song, it's their number one song, just like, Soft Cell might have Tainted Love or something.
I suppose because it was so different and so avant-garde in that time, you know what I mean? I suppose it really was ahead of its time. Someone obviously telling a story of somebody or, you know, either themselves or someone else. And it's pretty obvious that there is a sort of undertone of, you know, of attraction, of sexual attraction. So I think that's why it's, you know, why it still is such an important song in their catalogue.
Yeah. And it's remarkable. This song is remarkable in the canon of pop music. It's one of the most poetic pop songs that you can get, isn't it? The lyrics are delicate and poetic and finessed. And, you know, this was a time when a lot of pop music was very boring and just shiny pop songs that lasted 2 minutes, 50 seconds, you know, whatever. This song is properly poetic. And what do you think that is to Morrissey and the Smiths' credit, that they were creating songs that had actually poetic lyrical value, not just shiny pop songs, you know?
I think it was just a combination of a particularly gifted musician that happened to strike up the friendship with this particularly gifted poet, you know?
Yeah.
It's just the two coming together, and it's just I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole. I don't think Morrissey would be a famous singer now if Johnny and Morrissey hadn't have met at that time, you know, and formed that band. I just think it's interesting to pause on the idea of Morrissey being a particularly gifted lyricist, because you can sing as well as you like, and you can be a fantastic crooner, but if you've got crap lyrics, no one cares.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But do you when you listen to Morrissey tracks, not just this one, but the ones that we've listened to over the past, are you struck by, actually, he's really good at writing lyrics? He sort of...
absolutely, yeah. I do definitely feel that, you know, and obviously the more I listen, the more I become a fan and think, God, he's so good at this, you know. I mean, you and I used to go to poetry readings, didn't we?
Like open mic poetry nights.
Yeah.
I used to drag you along,
Yeah, and, you know, I do like poetry. I always liked poetry. I used to love it at school, and, you know, I got lots of poets that I like. But, yeah, no, I do think he would hold his own in any company. Definitely.
And it's that skill, isn't it, of crystallizing an emotion or an experience into 2 lines, you know, which he does so well. So obviously you've listened to quite a lot of Morrissey and Smith songs now. And as we know, This Charming Man is really the Smith song.
Yeah.
But for you personally, Nan, where would you put this? Is this one of the better songs, one of the less good songs?
Yeah, no, I definitely liked it, because, as I said, some of the Smiths ones, because I wasn't used to that sort of earlier voice, I didn't enjoy as much. But this one I did, you know. You know, obviously the whole concept of it I like.
We're going to have to get a leadership table of all the songs you had so far.
But you need to help me.
Is it Top Gear, where they've got the league table?
Yeah.
Of who's done it quick enough?
I'd love to see Nan on Top Gear. What is it? The fastest time you can drive a reasonably priced car?
Yes,
You could do that, Nan.
Yeah. They all say I'm a terrible backseat driver, which I am.
God, you are so bad. But then me and Nan and my dad and Ajit, my stepmom, were in the car the other day. Nan was backseat driving from the back. My dad was backseat driving to my stepmom. And I said, Dad, this is where you get it from.
Yeah.
From Nan. Yeah. It was like double whammy.
It's a good gift. It's a good gift.
Okay, so out of 10, This Charming Man?
8.
8.
Okay.
Okay.
Not bad.
Can you think, was there ever a song that we've talked about before that would have got a 9 or a 10? Or is this pretty much at the top of...
Off the top of my head now, because I've listened to so many the last couple of days, I can't choose. But I say it every time, we must do this. I need your help, actually, for compiling the past.
Let's do that.
All right, before the next episode, well, give me a month or 2, actually, but I'll come up with a leaderboard of all of your songs, and you give me ratings, and then we'll have that publicly available. So
that's your homework to do.
That's my homework.
I know a couple of the ones that people asked for this time, we'd already discussed. We've already...
Well, that way people know them which have been covered, don't they?
Yes.
I mean, they should listen to every episode to find out, but, you know, we can make it easier.
Maybe some of the the newcomers, you know, didn't realise we'd already covered ones earlier. And I started looking, and I thought, like, I have forgiven Jesus. And I thought, I remember doing that one. I remember
that. I remember that.
So I just need now to
get a list.
Be reminded of each one.
And if Morrissey's listening or watching this podcast, is there anything you'd like to say to him?
I'm so pleased that you're coming to Manchester. I should definitely be there watching from the wings.
But you'd prefer if you did Derby.
I would prefer
the
if
new
you did
shiny
Derby.
Beckett Well Arena.
Yeah, but I'm very pleased. I'm especially looking forward to seeing Jessie.
Well, thank you for joining us again on the Morrissey and Wine podcast. That was This Charming Man, Nanny Val's take, and we'll bring you back next month.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
What kind of people live in these houses?
Yeah, what kind of people live in these houses? So,
For this one, I think it's a really visual song. I think it paints. You can sort of picture what's going on quite often. I think it reminds me a little bit of the Reincarnation by Victoria Wood.
Yeah.
When she's talking about all these different people's lives, and it paints pictures of different people and what's going on in their lives, and quite most of it's a bit grotty, and you think that's a bit
which dented gent bends over in this town, which rough trade strangers. And now, of course, if you Rough Trade was the name of the record label that Morrissey was with the Smiths, but it has a meaning, which is male prostitution. Usually, it was sort of posher men would pay
younger,
more, or not necessarily. Actually,
okay.
I looked up the definition, but sometimes younger. But posher men would pay younger or more working class men as kind of prostitution. So yeah, you're right. It's gritty and grimy. Now, obviously, the narrative of this song is quite straightforward. You sort of imagine Morrissey, maybe he's on tour, going from one city to the next in the UK, and he's looking in the windows of houses, isn't he? And you look in one window and there's someone in a t-shirt and a blouse, and he looks in the next window and there's someone in a tent.
Yeah,
there wouldn't be a window, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's the narrative. It's basically just several vignettes, different characters, and Morrissey's asking the question: what kind of people live in these houses? Now, Morrissey has this obsession, kind of lyrical obsession with property, doesn't he? It always seems to come back to like in, is it Veronica with we're all allocated each of us.
This tiny spot.
Yeah, tiny spot allocated to each of us. And again, I think this is Morrissey talking about these people who are tied to their houses. On, was it Desert Island Discs interview when he said, it's the TV, it's the picture above the TV, the picture frame above the TV that he doesn't want.
Yes, yeah. That's really interesting. I always think about that. It sort of scares him to think that that's what you could have.
Now there's these vignettes of these characters. There's also 3 bits in the song where Morrissey kind of turns his glare onto these people and gives a kind of opinion. So he says, they vote the way they vote. They don't know how to change because their parents did the same.
Yeah.
Then a few more character bits. And then he says, they sleep with who they sleep with only because they are afraid to taste change.
Yeah.
And then finally, they look at television thinking it's their window to the world. That's got to hurt. And I find that last bit interesting.
Yeah, it's really sort of, it's a bit of a sting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like that's really quite almost a cruel thing to say about somebody, that's them. They watch telly and that's their life. They don't, and I think it's, and I said this, I think I say this on most songs when we talk about a Morrissey or a Smith song, is it's almost like a call to action. It's almost like, don't let that be you. Go out, do something, and don't be someone who just sits around. I don't know. That's how I take it. It's like, go and do what you need to do. Don't be that person.
Yes.
Or don't be your parents, or don't be the people who vote the same way every time.
Yes. And don't limit yourself to one gender, one sexual preference. He seems to be saying they sleep with who they sleep with because they're afraid to taste change.
Just trying to open the pool, aren't you?
All applications welcome. You'll find a classified ad in the back of Private Eye, PO Box 101. No, I just want to pause on this because Morrissey is. Do you remember J.K. Rowling said in The Importance of Being Morrissey documentary, some people live their wit in their life, some people put it into words. And she said, I think Morrissey just went into his bedroom and was witty on paper. And I think Morrissey's gone on this drive. He's seen all these different houses. He started to think about it and he's thought, right, I've got an attack. I want to attack some of these people for their very normal lives. And he puts those attacks into songs like America is not the world. That's just an attack, isn't it, on America?
Yeah.
Of course he says, and I love you. But I think there aren't, some artists would never write a song that attacks someone. That just wouldn't be their style. But it's quite common in Morrissey, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not always just vicious. It's almost like I said. It's calling to don't be that or to make a change.
Yes.
Because then some lines that I find quite interesting. There's the one that's or squatting on your quarters. Is that what do you make of that?
Quarters. If you're squatting on your quarters, well, no, quarters are like your bed chamber, your quarters.
Yeah.
So squatting, I don't know. It's just gross, isn't it?
I think that's what I mean by it's what the song's quite like. Yeah, it sounds quite like these hovels and places. It doesn't sound very nice, does it? Most of these places. But like you say about when Morris says about the picture on the television, he doesn't want that. Why would you want that? It's not very exciting or glamorous, is it?
Well, squatting on your quarters is an example of something I wanted to mention, which is that a lot of the rhymes are quite similar to The Bullfighter Dies. Mental invalentia, squatting on your quarters.
What do you call that again?
Well, assonance. I think.
Clever word.
If not completely a rhyme. I think that I just noticed a similarity between the lyrics of Bullfighter Dies and the lyrics of this song.
Yeah.
Sort of little couplets in each line with similar rhyming sounds. And I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this is a strong Morrissey song? Do you think it's one of the weaker ones?
I think it's a strong one. I think for that album, it's one of my favourite ones in the album. Yeah.
I think because it's so vivid and colourful, isn't it?
Yeah. And quite stingy at the end, or with those 3 bits you mentioned around voting, having sex who you have sex with, and then living free, watching television and not going out and doing it. Yeah.
And what do you think? So what do you think he means by this? You look at television thinking it's your world. Is this people who don't go out and live life? They just watch the news, and what they see on the news is what they think is real life.
People who watch Love Island.
Maybe.
Or people who just, I mean, not everyone can afford to go around the world like Morrissey can too. So there is that. But there is a world just outside. You don't need to say. Well, I enjoy watching telly, to be honest, and I think Morrissey does too. So
yeah,
but you don't. But you can do that and also go out and live and do other things too.
Well, I think Morrissey went through a bit of a transformation because I know in like the early 2000s he said something like, "I watch the news all day." I remember him saying that. I watch 24-hour news. I've always got it on
24/7.
Yeah. And now it's very much, since spent the day in bed, stop watching the news because it contrives to frighten you. I think he had a bit of an awakening and decided he didn't want to watch the news all the time anymore. And I wonder if that's who he's getting at. It's just people who, even if you're just watching your local television news, that is presenting a vision of the world, which is the producer's vision and the newsreader's vision and the company's vision. And if you just step outside and experience it for yourself, you'll find a whole different reality, I think. As much as the journalist might try to convey 100% reality, you never really can. You got to see it for yourself, right?
Yeah, and sometimes in the news, there's things that happen that are out of your control. So it's not really something that's worth stressing about, is it? So you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can change something, then yeah. But if you can't, then I don't know. You've only got one life, so.
I was just thinking, we talked about how this has got a slightly acidic edge.
Acid drops.
I mean, looking at the lyrics today written down, which I haven't done for a while, I've only sort of listened to the song, I realised that some of the words I didn't quite hear were things like dog face in a duplex.
I thought that was duck-faced at first.
Well, I thought it was dark-faced, like it's as if the lights are down.
Oh, not that they're blacked up.
No, well, hopefully not. Yeah, dog face in a duplex, squatting in your quarters, smelling in their dwelling. Actually, a lot of the characterizations are mean, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like grotty little hovels.
Yeah. So I suppose the question we have to ask ourselves is there an element of snobbishness here? Is this an artist who has lived, quite a charmed life by most people's estimations and is now looking at ordinary people who never quite got that chance and sort of taking the piss? Is that, could you say that's slightly snobbish?
But also, is it not like saying, "Well, you go out and do things. You don't have to be happy with your lot. You can change it if you want to."
Yeah.
I think a lot of Morrissey songs are like that. There's optimism and hope in there, and I think it's the sort of stingy, I think comic lines, some of them, that make you think that. Yeah.
I suppose that's a good way of saving it, because I think that you could at first glance see it as quite snobbish, and I think it is a little bit. And I think Morrissey has always been a little bit of a snob. A lot of intellectual people are a bit snobby because they feel that no one else is quite up to their standard.
They can't keep up. Yeah.
So there is a bit of that, but you're right. I think you could easily see yourself in this song and think, "Oh, I'm a dog face in a duplex."
I'm not.
And
You might be.
and you think, right, I need to change something. I need to do something about this. So yeah, I suppose there is a value in that sense. Well, let us know what you thought of the song, what you think of the song, especially if you're in the WhatsApp chat, if you're a Patreon subscriber. Let us know your thoughts. I think it's a
Do you think so? I was going to ask you what you think.
I think it's a stronger Morrissey song, yeah. I think it's lacking in autobiography. It's about other people. My favourite Morrissey songs are always about Morrissey being introspective and looking at himself.
Okay.
But I think the lyrics are strong, and I think there's a point to it.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are dense, and I like those kind of songs as well. I was just going to encourage everybody to follow us on social media.
Yeah.
So we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Threads, and we're on Blue Sky.
Blue Sky?
You always say that.
What is it?
It's like Twitter, but there's just less knobheads on it.
How are we on something? I'm not. I should know about these things.
I have told you.
I'm 50% of this company.
If you go back to a previous episode, we've had basically exactly the same conversation last time. And
there's a lot of whining between the episodes. I don't even still know what Threads is, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's why I saw all of this stuff. So you can find us on that. Now, you can also find us on WhatsApp. Just go to one of our social media profiles, click the link in our bio, and you'll see the link to sign up to WhatsApp. That's free. So, well, there's two halves to it. One half is free. That's the announcement. So we'll send you a message every time Morrissey updates his website or announces a new gig. That'll pop up as a text on your phone. If you want to join the private chat, that's a Patreon thing. But you can, as I say, you can get the free side. And a lot of people tell us that they find that really useful. They don't have to keep checking Morrissey's website every 5 minutes, because we'll tell you. So what have we got coming up next? Should I have a look at our document?
12T.
Document. So we're going into, if you love Morrissey, then you'll love this, which is some recommendations. We think if you're into Morrissey like we are, and I'm sure you are if you're watching this, then there's maybe some artists, some books, some TV shows that you'll enjoy as well. So let's go into that. Cheers. So, if you love Morrissey, then you'll love this. So we're just about to get into those recommendations. But first, I believe Chris has some snacks that he wants me to try.
I do have some snacks. So I went to Stockport Vegan Festival yesterday.
Oh, God.
Yeah. It was
fate
great.
Worse than death.
Lovely, great lot. Nice people. They very expensive though. I think they see you coming when you're vegan. They think that we can add lots of money and give you small portions. But I got a few bits that I thought you might try to try and convert you into one of us. One of us. Okay.
Okay. So, what have you got?
Okay, let's have a look. Well, first of all, can you close your eyes and open your mouth, please?
No, as if.
If you close your eyes and open your mouth, I've got a spoon.
Really? You don't have a spoon?
I have a spoon.
I don't want to do... Okay, all right.
Your eyes are closed.
Yeah.
So this is the first one for the camera.
God. Do I have to guess what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel really uncomfortable.
I'm just opening the jar.
I think I know what it is. No, actually, that would be vegan anyway.
Okay, got a little bit on the spoon now.
Just put it in...
Open your mouth.
Only a little bit.
Only a little bit. It's all gone down your top. There we go. That's it.
I feel like I'm advanced 50 years.
What is that? What's that?
Can I open my eyes now?
Yeah, you can open your eyes now.
Oh, God, it's all over
What do you think it is?
Oh, it's a really familiar taste. But it's like crumbly and dry. Is it peanutty?
Well, I think there is nut in it. So this is plant-based Parmesan.
Parmesan. Oh, you've just given me a mouthful of Parmesan.
Yeah, so this is it. It's
okay. Yeah. That's definitely nutty.
Nutty.
It's got. Let me look at the ingredients. I'm sure that's got nuts in it. So that's Parmesan, sunflower seeds, lemon juice, seasonings. Oh, may contain tree nuts. Okay. Maybe that would be nice on a pasta. I'm not sure I fancy a spoonful of it.
I've made my own before. I didn't have pasta with me. Guess how much that was?
£9.
Well, close.
How much?
£8.50, but
yeah,
a lot of money anyway. That's the first one.
Okay. Do I have to close my eyes again?
No, you don't have to close your eyes now. So, no, you don't have to close your eyes.
Really didn't like that.
So the next one we have is you see, I think you like these sort of things anyway.
Yeah.
Because you like, I hate coffee, to be fair.
Oh, iced coffee.
Iced coffee. This was from the vegan festival. And it's oat, but you drink oat milk anyway. So do you want to try that? I think you'll like this one. The rest of the things aren't weird. That was the weird one.
Okay. Okay, so it's Jimmy's iced coffee, oat, dairy free. That's lovely.
It's nice.
The coffee could be a bit stronger. It's a little bit more oaty than coffee.
Is it?
But yeah, I'd love some of those in my fridge. That'd be great in the morning.
Okay. Well,
I like
the
that.
second one. Thank you. They give them away free because they're out of date on the way in. Right, and the next one, you can have a choice of chocolate, vegan chocolate. This is made by an independent company called Undairy. The guy said that he's intolerant and he made this brand.
Okay, hold it up for the camera.
So Undairy, I bought these yesterday.
Okay, and what are the choices?
You've got fruit and nut or orange, and I know which one you're going to go for.
I don't really.
Oh, you don't like those? You don't like chocolate orange?
I'll have a bit of the orange one, but it wouldn't be my choice.
Okay. Only a small bit. It's very expensive.
Yeah, I only want a tiny bit.
A segment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like chocolate.
Yeah.
It looks like milk chocolate.
Let me see the chocolate.
I'm going to move the microphone away so people can't hear me chewing. Yeah, that's very nice.
Quite creamy, isn't it?
That's really good. That's just like milk chocolate.
Because I knew it was really expensive, I made sure they gave me a lot of samples. So, yeah.
Pop that on there.
You're not eating it?
No, I've had a little taste.
Okay.
Well, that's good. I mean, if that's what all vegan food is like,
you converted.
I'm doing it. If I can just eat chocolate and dry Parmesan every day, washed down with a bit of iced coffee. Okay, well, thank you for introducing me to the world of veganism.
Yeah, and you too could become enlightened like me.
So next we're going to go into If You Love Morrissey, Then You Love This, as promised.
Yep.
So I'll start with mine.
You start with yours, yep.
Okay, so Chris says that I always talk about this artist on the podcast. I don't remember actually mentioning her before, maybe once or twice. But the artist is Lily Allen. So
shock horror.
Well, to Chris it's shock horror because apparently I talk about it all the time. Now, I think the interesting thing, so Lily Allen, brief overview, she is a female British artist. She grew up in London. Her father is the actor Keith Allen. And so when she first started out, there were some accusations of nepotism. Really, I don't think there was much nepotism because just because your dad's an actor, it doesn't mean you're going to do well in music.
No.
You might have better connections than the average startup singer. But anyway, that's her. Her debut album was called All Right Still. That was released probably, 15 or 20 years ago now. So that's Lily Allen in a nutshell. She writes about real life in a very similar way to Alex Turner of the Arctic Monkeys. So I think her debut album, All Right Still, is very similar thematically to the debut album of Arctic Monkeys, which I think is called Whatever You Say, That's What I'm Not. I think it's called that. And the reason why I'm bringing her to the table today is because the lyrics, in my opinion, Lily Allen's lyrics are just fantastic. They're about real life. They're about the grittiness. They're about going out and having a drink with your friends or breaking up with someone and they think, someone breaking up with you and they think it's going to be the end of your world and actually not that bothered because you never liked them anyway. Or they never made you come. That's another. There's a song that she sings about how she spent all this time giving head to a boyfriend, but he's rubbish in bed and it always ends badly. And she's just writing about real things. So she's a little bit more on the nose than Morrissey. So she will go into the specifics.
Morrissey hasn't used the word "cum" in a song yet, has he?
No.
But
So
you never know.
in some ways, you could argue it is a bit more modern, but I do see a lyrical lineage from Morrissey, then several bands in between, Arctic Monkeys, Lily Allen. They're following this line of British sort of realism, naturalistic lyrics. And if you want to sort of see what you think of Lily Allen, I would say definitely start with All Right Still. Now, don't be put off because, for example, the lead single from All Right Still was Smile and LDN, about living life in London. And you could say that the lyrics are quite simple and maybe just too poppy, but don't be put off by that because I think it's actually a great skill to simplify and crystallize your lyrics into pithy pop. But if you listen to the other tracks on the album, you'll see there's a lot more depth. And, you know, you can see yourself in the lyrics. And I just think Lily Allen, probably a big part of it is because she's a woman, but in a lot of ways, she's overlooked. People think, oh, she's just a pretty face who writes pretty pop songs and that's it. But in my opinion, the lyrics are really fantastic. I think she's incredibly intelligent. And, you know, there's about 4 or 5 albums there for you to get into if you like her.
Can you recommend a song then that isn't those songs you mentioned, another song that you would say?
Yeah, a Lily Allen song that I really like. Well, there's a song Hard Out Here.
Hard Out Here.
Out Here,
yeah.
which is all about being a woman in the music industry, and plastic surgery, and you know, being objectified. And she turns it into this pop song, turns it on its head.
It's quite a catchy song. It's a good song.
Yeah. The chorus goes, "It's hard out here for a bitch."
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've never given her a go, and I imagine some of our American listeners, Leah might not have made a big impact on them.
She's not broke America.
She's not Brack America.
She's not Brack America.
No, so perhaps that's worth digging into. So that would be my recommendation. No, Chris, yours is not music; it's something else, right?
Yeah. So mine this time is a theme. I think we've had a few times of comedy. Because, like we say, I think Morrissey's hilarious in lyrics, but also day to day. I think mine is Julian Clary. So a stand-up comedian, but who also has been on telly quite a lot
in the UK.
So he's a British comedian. He also does the headlines the London Palladium pantomime, which is the main pantomime in Britain. Pantomime probably isn't that big in America, is it?
No.
So, but it's a stage show. It's normally on around Christmas. It's funny. It goes along the lines of a like a fairy tale, I suppose.
Peter Pan or Cinderella or something like that.
Yeah. And the reason I mentioned Julian Clary is because I think there is a lot of witty comedy and innuendo in his. Well, he is known for innuendo. He's the sort of king, or I suppose queen of innuendo. But yeah, what would you say about Julian Clary?
Well, I think it's a great recommendation. I think so Morrissey does a lot of innuendo, or what you might call double entendre.
Yeah.
So
that's where the link is between them both, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of camp comedy where you're suggesting something a bit naughty, a bit sexy, a bit dirty, but you're using innocent language. Julian Clary and Morrissey do have those similarities in that they're coming from. Now, I know Morrissey doesn't say that he's gay, but they're coming from that gay homosexual kind of world, that perspective on the world. You know, as someone who's maybe a bit more sensitive, a bit more feminine, that Morrissey and Julian Clary are both coming from that perspective of the world. I'm come to understand from a bit of research, because we actually invited Julian to come on the podcast.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. He hasn't come on yet, but
no. But we did a bit of research. I don't think Julian Clary has ever said that he's a Morrissey fan. I mean, I remember listening to his Desert Island Discs and...
mainly yodeling, wasn't it?
Yodeling. He loves yodeling.
Yeah, he's yodeling. So yeah, we can't trust his musical taste. But
some classic Julian Clary lines. There's one when he says, "Oh, who did your hair? Was it the council?"
Yeah. Or what you wearing? Felt. That's interesting.
Or when he talks to the audience. Please don't touch me or breathe on me.
Please don't touch or breathe on me. And he's got some great lines. So many more that are much ruder than that. But we actually took, I took my Swedish friend to see Julian Clary, and she's not easily impressed. And she really
Carolina.
Yeah. I wasn't going to name her, but yeah.
Oh.
She's not easily impressed. So but she loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. if you have a look at his clips on YouTube, you'll probably find some funny stuff as all of his stand-ups on there, his TV appearances. One interesting thing to say about Julian Clary is he was a very early victim of cancellation.
Very early. Well, yeah, very early.
One of the first people to really be cancelled.
Yeah.
Because he was doing this awards ceremony. He did this joke about a politician at the time called Norman Lamont. He said, "Sorry, I'm late. I've just been fisting Norman Lamont."
On Hampstead Heath.
And then said, talk about a red box.
Yeah.
Now, if you might not know, but British ministers carry red briefcases with their files in. So he said, talk about red box. And that went crazy. Every front page of the tabloids was...
And he couldn't get television for a long time.
Yeah, he had to work in Australia because he couldn't get a gig. So he's come back from that, and it goes to show that people can be redeemed in the public eye. But yeah, an early victim of cancellation, and
which is a similarity to Morrissey in some ways. Not that Morrissey's been cancelled, but that people want to, maybe.
Yeah. Outsiders, isn't it? It's people who are scorned by society.
Yeah.
For just trying to have a laugh or just trying to write something witty.
And who has talent, because it's a great joke, but it just wasn't. It was taken the wrong way.
Interestingly, not by the people in the room. People like Jonathan Ross, they were laughing their heads off.
Yeah, and I think what's her name was in the room? Patsy.
Kensett?
No, Patsy from AbPab.
Oh, Joanna Lumley.
Joanna Lumley was in the room, yeah, and she was laughing at
Sweetie darling.
Sweetie darling.
Okay, so there's our recommendations. Lily Allen for her music and Julian Clary for his comedy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to go into the interview with Andrew Paresi. So as we mentioned before, Andrew Paresi, he was a drummer for Morrissey between 1987 and 1991.
Yep.
He played on songs such as November Spawned a Monster, basically a lot of stuff around Kill Uncle, Bona Drag, and Viva Hate.
Viva Hate.
If you want to get a bit more information after you've listened to this podcast, go back and listen to the Stephen Street interview, because that was the same era. So we're going to talk to Andrew about how did he get first gel with Morrissey? How did they get on? Where did they socialize?
Yeah.
I know I'm really keen to ask, what did he think of the lyrics of November Spawned a Monster when he first heard them?
Yeah.
Because I would just want to hear what his take was. So we're going to go into that now. So cheers.
Cheers.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the Morrissey and Wine podcast. My first question, we've got a few topics that we wanted to ask you about. My first question, which intrigues me, is what was your impression of Morrissey and the Smiths before you first crossed paths? What did you think of them before that first meeting?
Well, I'd read about the Smiths more than I'd heard them, because I was a pretty dedicated listener to daytime Radio 1, because throughout the late 70s and early 80s, it was playing great records. And this tradition carried on in the 80s until pop became a little too fatuous and rather weird. So I was very surprised that I was reading about this band in Melody Maker and NME, but I wasn't getting to hear any records unless I stayed up to listen to John Peel, who of course was playing them all the time. So I found that profoundly disturbing. So when I finally got to hear stuff by the Smiths, I was just stunned, because this was just an electrifying mixture. And then gradually it started to seep out into other media, as inevitably it would, but not least of all with performances on the Tube and Top of the Pops. And it was great. So I definitely become aware of, and I would say radicalized by the Smiths. Actually, I know it's a bit of a loaded term these days, but actually it was quite deep. And for me, the final part of it was listening straight off the bat to Strange Ways Here We Come, because that was just, to me, was just one of the most beautiful albums I'd ever heard. And then, of course, I then bought the back catalogue and realized there were things of beauty there to behold. So yes, I was reasonably well primed and aware and musically literate about what the Smiths had represented.
Yeah, so you had a good background there. What was your first meeting with Morrissey like?
It was very charming. It was in Stephen Street's Mortlake flat, I think, and he might have a different recollection, but it was a Mortlake house or flat, I can't remember, but he was there. He was dressed in black and was very, very lovely. I mean, he spoke in a very sort of beautiful, dark tone, and hello, Andrew, and he asked me interesting questions about what my background was and my music, things I'd bought, and what I was listening to. Genuinely curious, and I did my best to answer them. But obviously I was quite nervous, because I knew what was happening here, and it was just, ooh, careful what you say. Don't say that you bought the Osmonds, or Donny Osmond's Puppy Love as your first single, whatever you do, even though it was. I was the first person in the history of humanity to be bullied at school by being asked to sing Puppy Love by Donny Osmond in the playground. I was being predated on by two really nasty, because I went to a really tough inner London school in Battersea called Salesian College. And, you were either sort of proud in high heels or you were being beaten up. I was neither. But the only person that picked on me wanted me to sing Puppy Love for some reason. He didn't want to beat me up or mash my face in, with a hatchet. He just said, all right, sing me Puppy Love. Go on, do it. So I sung it to him, and I happened to have a good choir boy voice, and I did an excellent rendition. And he left me alone for the rest of my time there. So that was great.
Yeah, got off easy then, really.
So that wasn't my first single then.
Do you think...
What's that? Say again?
So people have often said...
I did get off easy. Yes, sorry.
Sorry. People have often said if Morrissey doesn't like you, he's just going to blank you. So it sounds like you actually got on really well. And was there do you think there was something about you or the way you presented yourself that helped you to gel with Morrissey in that first meeting?
I'm not sure, actually, what it was. I'm quite, if I say so myself, quite empathetic, I can hear things people can't hear. But the truth of it is that in fact, I'm just sort of, for the most part, quite softly spoken and listen very carefully to what people are saying. So that might have been it. I think I've got a pretty sharp sense of humor, so maybe he liked that. It's very difficult to know, but certainly it was great to know that there was some sort of connection there, which went beyond simply supplying drum rhythms. That was lovely.
And were you conscious that Morrissey was about to launch his first solo album, and there was a lot of anticipation for this album, and it was going to make a big difference whether Morrissey was going to make it or break it as a solo artist? Were you aware of that pressure?
I think as we got into recording sessions that moved closer to the release date, so those in the tail end of 87, and the B-sides to Every Day Is Like Sunday in early 1988, there was almost, I'd say, a low-edged feverish quality to the environment. And I think that the early plays of Suedehead and the immediate fast rotation of it on Radio 1 was the clearest signal that this was going to take off and be huge. And I think that nervous tension was trammeled by the joy of it happening. It was spectacular. So everyone was behind the record. And I think that tension got lanced really by the success of Suedehead.
And Chris, I'm going to let you ask one now. Do you want to go now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was going to ask, I think Morrissey's pretty hilarious when he's on stage in between songs, really funny. And obviously you're a professional comedian. What made Morrissey laugh when you were together? What made Morrissey laugh?
I think the things I used to do were, because I probably have a Tourette's type, a sort of tendency to blurt out voices I've heard.
Okay.
There is actually an illness you can contract, and this is not a joke, but there are people who've woken up after a viral infection and found themselves speaking French with no history at all of being taught it. Now, I'm not suggesting it's that, but I do pick up accents very quickly. And so I was able to sort of do accents of curmudgeonly northerners that appeared in kitchen sink dramas. And I would then, do impressions of Vinnie Riley, one that I made Morrissey laugh really a great deal was I don't think, no, it's too vulgar. I can't repeat it now, but it was, he just loved it. I can't do it. No, it's too much. It's just wrong. I'm sorry, it's wrong. You've got to understand.
So that's Morrissey's humor. He likes
my life's on the line here.
Okay.
And so considering that terrifying power that it has in a social sense, can you describe to us what was the atmosphere like in the recording studio, and was it Wall Hall where you recorded some of the albums? So it was a residential thing as well. What was that environment like when Morrissey's in the room? How does that feel?
Well, I think when Stephen and I were recording alone, it was a little more matey because it's drums and bass, and we're sort of, locking in. We're locking in, bruv. When Morrissey arrived, what was interesting was there'd be a sort of respect, a hush of respect coming, as if the headmaster had arrived, in the nicest way possible. I don't mean the headmaster ritual or whatever, but it was like, he'd come in to check the backing tracks to see what they sounded like. And, it wasn't tense. It was actually very enjoyable and at times joyful. But there was that slight alteration of vibe when Morrissey came in to listen, because obviously you wanted him to hear what we'd done and like it and be inspired by it. So yeah, there was a little bit of tension, but it was good tension.
Interesting, yeah. One question we've asked a few people who have been on is, Morrissey's known for writing postcards. Did you ever receive a cryptic postcard from Morrissey?
I got the odd postcard. What I did get a lot of were faxes, and this was especially around the time of toward the tail end of Kill Uncle, when the Kill Uncle tour band was being assembled. There would be a lot of faxes about stuff. Also, he had, between Bona Drag and Kill Uncle, he was trying to record some songs, and I arranged to get a 4-track recorder for him with I think it was with a computer, but anyway, just so that he could put his own vocals down, I think, on cassettes that people had sent him. So, there was a lot of to and fro, and some of them are very sweet and funny. There was really sweet ones, like he would quote from Coronation Street. I'm shame I haven't got them with me. I do apologize for that. But say things like, "For every train as goes, there's one that comes back," and this would be some answer to something I might have been asking about, months before, whether someone had got back to him or whatever. So it was very sweet and gnomic, and
and these faxes that you received, were these was it sort of handwritten on a piece of paper and then faxed in?
Yes, in very distinctive capitals. That very, very much his style, and they were just, because of the nature of that style, they were already amusing and at times very moving. But it's just that style is so distinctive to him.
Yes,
it's so funny.
Interesting.
Very dark film.
I've got quite a wealthy uncle, so I could try and do that one. I was going to ask, can you describe the moment in the 90s when, as you said, I knew I'd been fired? Describe that moment.
Well, I think the thing is that we'd had Viva Hate, Bona Drag, and then Kill Uncle, and I don't think there was anything that Morrissey felt confident about in the terms of playing live. In fact, if he had a look around the room, it sort of was, some jobbing individuals, very enthusiastic, but it didn't coalesce into a group. After Viva Hate, when we were recording the B-sides to Every Day Is Like Sunday, there was a moment there where a group looked like it could coalesce. And just for a moment, it looked like we might be touring Viva Hate, but that never happened. And similarly, it was only when we took Morrissey to the Camden Working Men's Social Club, because he was getting very interested in rockabilly and the rockabilly subculture, specifically in London, but there's elsewhere as well. He suddenly, we went to this club, and you could see he was just being transported into a new world. He just went, I can't remember now what he said, but something like, this is the place I've always wanted to be, you know. And I thought, well, that's it, I'm out. Because, I mean, at that point, we'd already had, I think Bona had come in. I think we'd met a few individuals, but there were more coming in, and that was going to be the live band. So there was a little bittersweet, but understandable. Given what they went on to achieve in their first tour, it was just terrifying. I mean, it was a whirlwind. And they played brilliantly as well.
Now, we asked, when we had Alan White on the podcast, we asked him how he felt when he heard the lyrics to National Front Disco. And in a similar vein, I'd like to ask you, when you first heard the lyrics to November Spawned a Monster, what was your original very first take when you heard those lyrics?
Well, the backing track to November Spawned a Monster was so intense and threatening anyway, that it would have surprised me if the lyrics had been anything other than, terrifying. So I thought it was, thrilling, extreme, and surprising. Because, sometimes Morrissey's very good at the bittersweet. So you'll have this driving, aggressive backing track, but then you'll have lyrics that are very kind of sensitive and aware, and which is always great. But this was almost a kind of paean to, a very strange sort of narrative underpinning it. So yeah, that was very surprising, definitely. I was going to go on to say that it's an allegory, perhaps, or a metaphor rather than a reality. But it's sort of saying really that you basically don't know what's going to happen when you mate with another member of your species. You have to be very, very careful. And if their mother says no, then you have to abide by her wishes. Very simple.
It is remarkable that Morrissey is the kind of artist that would write a song about that subject. It's the most unlikely subject for a pop song, you know, but it is so pop and it is so great. Do you think that's a mark of quality in Morrissey as an artist, that he would write a song about those kind of subjects?
Yes, and one thing you can guarantee when you've done a backing track is you have absolutely no idea what lyrics are going to come out as a result, what he's been working on. But whatever it is, it's immediately engaging and fascinating and slightly troubling, which is what it should be.
Yeah.
He'll prod away at something. That's me prodding, by the way. He'll prod away at something which is, deep in the human psyche that everyone feels, and start to sort of, evaginate it almost, to use a medical term, which is probably not relevant here. But the thing is that that's the discomfort that some people find with his music. But for me, it's a degree of freedom. Thank you for letting that one out. So I think that's always one of the joys, is you don't quite know what you're going to get, to paraphrase Tom Hanks in that really silly film. What's it called?
Forrest Gump?
Where he goes, you got it, yes.
Forrest Gump, yeah.
Boris Gump, that's right. The former mayor of London goes for a long walk and never comes back.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm being very political again.
We often ask, when people who have worked with Morrissey and they come on the podcast, we ask them, what do you think of Morrissey's kind of media image in this age? He's seen, there's no point denying it, he's seen by a lot of people as kind of cancelled and, oh, he's a racist, he's this, he's that. And often I'm asking the person who comes on the podcast, well, you know him as a friendly, interesting, nice person. How do you marry that with what you see in the media and his public perception and how he's treated? Do you think that Morrissey is perhaps treated unfairly? Or on the other hand, you might think, well, Morrissey gives as good as he gets, and it's a knockabout industry. What's your opinion of his public image in 2025?
Well, I think the important thing to remember about Morrissey is that he never really changes. What he was saying in comic or vituperative form, big word there, back in the day, where he was quoted endlessly in music papers and celebrated for. Well, human behavior has altered, largely because of the impact of the truly depressing presence of social media, which has reduced people's critical skills to playground, you're in my gang or you're not. And because a lot of power is given to people, especially if they have a lot of followers, and they can just say, this person's cancelled for saying something X. Well, you can't really fight back if you're not in that playground. So Morrissey's never really taken an interest in social media, and I applaud him for that. I think that's a brave place to be. But the problem is that they can do stuff to you. Now, whether there are issues with things he has said, well, if you go back into anyone's history, you're likely to find things people have said which might be a little off color now.
Yeah.
But I would regard, obviously there are some issues with political parties and so on, which is referenced, and worn badges and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, this is the hallmark of a free society, is that you can do these things. And if it attracts opprobrium, then that's what it will attract. But there's a difference, I think, between getting perceived as someone who's siding with sinister right-wing forces, which I think he isn't, for someone who's perhaps taken an interest in a party because they happen to have a healthy attitude toward cruelty to animals. It could be that that's a misinterpretation, but it could also be him playing sort of mischievously with something to get a reaction. But it's, I think you need to look to the Morrissey device of extracting a human truth. And that's where you'll find, I think this kind of comes to rest, because human behavior is already moving away from the coquettishness of social media groups. We're going into a much darker place. Social media is dead, really, for all intents and purposes. We're going into a much darker place, much darker territory. The President of the United States, we now know, is not really fit for office. And yet that has happened. All of these things that, they're all elements of human kind of behavior. And to a large extent, he's sort of identified these memes in people years ago and has sung about them. And all of these things like jealousies, menace, hate, they're all coming out. Who'd have thought prescient a title Viva Hate was? Well, we're in the era of Viva Hate now. So I think you need to see Morrissey more as a seer rather than someone who is a doer, if you like.
Sometimes
I don't know.
Well, that was fascinating. I agree with a lot of what you said. I was going to say something me and Chris sometimes talk about is Morrissey cancelled? Is he uncancelable? Has that even been I think in some ways, some people would like to think that Morrissey is cancelled, whatever that means. What would be your opinion, Andrew, in the modern sense of the word cancelled? Has Morrissey been cancelled, or is he somehow uncancelable?
I think it's true to say that he's probably been cancelled by a certain group that looked up to him, who have seen which way the wind was blowing a few years ago and felt, they didn't want to be a part of it. But it's a small area of Morrissey's latent fan base, because it's out there. The energy is out there for Morrissey. People will still go to the gigs, and the bigger the presence, the more people sense he's back. People will return in vast numbers because they'll see through this. It is really difficult, because we've been so overwhelmed with social media niceties, the terminology, the endless sort of hits that we need to feel that we exist as a human being, that we're loved, and all the rest of it. All of these things are coming from a profoundly insidious source. So I just think, yes, he's probably been cancelled at some level in social media environments, and maybe liberal, left-leaning fans feel that was just a bit too much to have political allegiances waved about in front of them. But I think his artistry does transcend the politics. I would argue that his artistry has actually defined and explained the politics we're heading into. And that, I think, is really where people need to be looking. Perhaps remove themselves from the desire to crucify him. I mean, he is a human after all, and he can make his own choices about what he wants to say and do. But perhaps step back and think, well, actually, he's rather cleverly nailed something of the future we've stepped into.
Yes.
That's really interesting. I think we have got some Morrissey shows coming up now, which is great.
Yes.
Announced yesterday.
Yes, yes, I saw those. That's very exciting. That's brilliant.
Yeah, we're very excited for those.
And can I ask you, Andrew, just to finish our interview, are you proud of the work that you've done with Morrissey? Is it something that you look back on with pride?
Absolutely. I loved nearly all the tracks. Well, I've actually loved all the tracks I played on. There was for a moment actually a feeling that the B-sides to Every Day Is Like Sunday, that's the third time I've mentioned those B-sides, so they're really significant in the development of that album and the singles that followed, that some of those would have fitted better on Viva Hate. And in fact, in the American version released by Sire had Hairdresser on Fire on it, if I'm not mistaken. So we were beginning to find our feet as both a band and also a group that could play Stephen's songs and Morrissey's singing. So I think that confidence was growing with the way those tracks sounded. But I'm totally proud of what I've done. I'm amazed that I got picked, and I've regarded it as a privilege and still do. So there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. This has been a fascinating chat. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
No problem. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. I do feel as though I've been doing an interview for ICE at the moment. You know, why do I want to stay in this country? And I'm expecting some heavyweight policemen to arrive from that agency
we're just
send me back to Mexico,
we're sending
which
them
is, of course, where I come from. Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, at least I can hop out the window.
Well, thank you for joining us on Morrissey and Wine, Andrew. Honestly, really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So that was Andrew Paresi.
Yeah.
And that's the end of another episode.
Another successful episode, I think.
Chapter in our life. This is year 2. So, we've got a bit of experience now. It's still a new environment for us, isn't it? Because we haven't done this in George's bedroom.
Gary's studio, Gary of Red Eye Studios, who does all of this and makes it look so fantastic. It is new for us, but
we hope where Gary takes the cutout in the evening.
Takes it to the bless.
Yeah, takes it for a drink and then somewhere else.
So that was Andrew. That was the podcast. Thank you for listening. Now I'll just mention we are still selling our t-shirts at morrisseymerch.com. That's Morrissey, MERCH, morrisseymerch.com. Got a few of those left. They're very limited edition, and that's not just like bullshit. They are.
We're not making any more of those ones, but and they are, I think, discounted too at the moment. The last few.
No, the discount has run out now, I'm afraid.
Sorry. That's a shame.
Yeah, but we are releasing new ones soon.
Yes. Yeah.
So keep an eye out for those. And a reminder also, if you want to hear the full unedited interview with Andrew Paresi, you can get that on Patreon. So like we said before, that's £4.50 a month or $5 if you're in the US. You'll hear the full interview with Andrew Paresi, just the bits that we couldn't, fit into this podcast.
Yeah. And you get some badges.
And badges if you sign up in time. Absolutely. So thank you very much for listening, for watching. We really appreciate it.
Yep.
Talk to us in the WhatsApp chat. Tell us what you got in the quiz. So Chris, anything from you?
Just thank you. Thank you for putting up with us.
Yeah. For being loyal listeners.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
We enjoy doing it. We do it because we care about putting some good media out about Morrissey.
Yeah. Just try to level the playing field a bit for dear old Moz.
Yeah. Level the playing field.
So I shall say thank you, goodbye, Godspeed.
And God bless Morrissey.
God bless Morrissey, yes. Cheers.
Cheers.